You're learning with 9 to 5 English. Business English for the workplace. Hi, Tim here with another 9 to 5 English lesson. In today's lesson, we're going to learn how to make arrangements in English. Think of all the things that flow in and out of your company. It could be anything from office supplies to raw materials. How do these things get to where they need to be? Someone is making arrangements. And although lots of things are ordered online, there are still lots of arrangements made over the phone. So how do we make arrangements? Well, it starts with a polite suggestion or request. In polite requests, we often use the words would and could. For example, you might say, I would like to arrange a delivery, or we would like something shipped. Of course, I would can be shortened to I'd, and we would to we'd. To use could, you might say, could we schedule a delivery? Let's practice some of these expressions for suggesting an arrangement. Listen to each example, then repeat it for yourself. Ready? Let's get started.
I'd like to arrange for a delivery of office supplies.
Could we schedule a shipment for next week?
Any chance we could have some paper sent to our Walkerton branch?
We'd like some units shipped as soon as possible.
Notice the different verbs we use to make arrangements. We can say arrange, or schedule, or have something sent or delivered. When we have something done, we are making arrangements for someone else to do it. Now, one important part of making arrangements is talking about when something will happen. To schedule a time, you might use the language of suggestion, like, how about 5 o'clock? But you might also continue using that word would, as in, Thursday would be best, or 1 p.m. would work for us. Let's try some examples of suggesting times. Remember to repeat the examples after you hear them.
How about Thursday afternoon, just after lunch?
3 p.m. would be ideal on our end.
Sometime on Monday or Tuesday would work for us.
We could do either Wednesday morning or Friday afternoon.
One thing you might notice is suggesting options, as in sometime on Monday or Tuesday, and either Wednesday morning or Friday afternoon. Giving options is a great way to speed up arrangements, whether you're arranging a delivery or trying to find a time to meet with someone. So, besides time, you also need to arrange a place. Once again, you might use would and could to make a request. That is, you might say, could we get that sent? Or, we'd like that shipped to a certain place. The place itself might be a location, like our Chicago office. It might be a street address, like 545 Oak Street. Or it might be a specific part of your building, like the front door. How about some practice with arranging a delivery place? Once again, repeat the examples after you hear them.
Could we get that sent to our head office in Dallas?
Please have the driver come to our back door.
This is for delivery to 388 Fortune Drive.
We'd like this shipped to our warehouse in Seattle.
Did you hear that expression, have the driver come to our back door? You can see how useful it is to say, have something done. When you make arrangements, you're having something done, but you might also instruct someone to have the driver do something. All right, we've practiced different ways of making arrangements, but how does this sound in a conversation? Let's listen to a short dialogue between Allison and Paul. Allison is talking to Paul to make arrangements for a delivery.
Could we schedule a delivery for next week?
Sure thing. When were you thinking?
Sometime Monday afternoon would work.
Okay, we have a truck going out on Monday at 1.
Not too difficult, right? Allison starts by asking if they could schedule a delivery. And when Paul asks about time, Allison tells him what would work. Now it's your turn to practice. We'll repeat the dialogue, but this time we're going to beep out the first speaker's words. You will have to say those parts yourself. Remember to start by requesting a delivery for next week. Then you'll arrange a time by saying Monday afternoon would work. Ready? Here we go.
Sure thing. When were you thinking? Okay, we have a truck going out on Monday at 1.
Okay, that's all for this lesson. We've learned how to suggest arrangements as well as how to schedule a time and place. We'll be back soon with more useful English expressions. Until then, so long and happy learning. You're learning with 9 to 5 English. Business English for the workplace. Hi, Tim here with another 9 to 5 English lesson. In today's lesson, we're going to learn how to express doubt in English. Have you ever been in a meeting when someone says something and you think, I'm not really sure about that? You might be unsure about whether it's true or whether it's a good idea. We call that feeling doubt. And it's important that you are able to express doubt confidently and politely. Now, if you're a little bit unsure of something, you can use the expression I just used and say something like, I'm not really sure. Or, I'm not 100% sure. Or you could say very directly, well, I have a few doubts. Another way to express doubt is with a question, like, are you certain that would work? Just by asking the question, you are telling people you have doubts. Let's try a bit of practice with some of these ways of expressing mild doubt. Listen to each example, then repeat it yourself. Ready? Let's get started.
I'm not 100% sure about that.
Well, I have a few doubts.
That seems a bit unlikely to me.
Are you certain that would work?
You might notice that these expressions sound more polite than just saying, I doubt that. The reason for this is softening words like a few or a bit, and hesitation words like and well. But sometimes you may be less concerned about being polite. Instead, you might want to show strong doubt. And to do that, we can be more direct. For example, you could say, there's no way that would work. That certainly sounds clear and direct, doesn't it? You could also say, that's simply not feasible, which means it won't work. Or, I really don't think that's a possibility. These are all ways to show you have strong doubts about what's being talked about. Let's try some examples of showing strong doubts. Remember to repeat the examples after you hear them.
There's no way that would work.
I'm sorry, but that's simply not feasible.
I seriously doubt it.
I really don't think that's a possibility at all.
These are strong and direct expressions, but you did hear one common way to make them a bit more polite. The expression, I'm sorry, but. You can use this to introduce a strong or honest opinion, such as, I'm sorry, but that's really not possible. Now, what if you don't have strong doubts and you're simply unsure which of two competing ideas or positions you support? Well, in this case, you might want to take a neutral position. If you're neutral, it means you haven't decided yet, or you don't want to commit to one side. In this case, you might say, I could go either way, or I can see both sides of this issue. Another way to express this idea is with the idiom, I'm on the fence about it. That simply means you're not on one side or the other, but right in the middle. How about some practice with these expressions? Once again, repeat the examples after you hear them.
I could go either way on this.
I'm kind of on the fence about it.
I guess we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, well, I can see two sides to this issue.
Did you hear that expression, "We'll just have to wait and see"? That's simply a way of saying you're not ready to make a decision yet because you need more information or the future is uncertain. All right, we've practiced different ways of expressing doubt. But how does this sound in a conversation? Let's listen to a short dialogue between Nick and Kendra. Nick is suggesting ways of reducing costs, and Kendra is expressing doubt.
One way to reduce costs is to get a smaller office.
I'm not 100% sure about that.
Well, we could cut staff instead.
I'm sorry, but that's simply not feasible.
Now it's your turn to practice. We'll repeat the dialogue, but this time we're going to beep out the second speaker's words. You will have to say those parts yourself. Remember to start by saying you're not 100% sure about the idea. Then say you think Nick's second idea simply isn't feasible. Ready? Here we go.
One way to reduce costs is to get a smaller office. Well, we could cut staff instead.
Okay, that's all for this lesson. We've learned how to express mild and strong doubt, as well as how to take a neutral position. We'll be back soon with some more useful English expressions. Until then, so long and happy learning. You're learning with 9 to 5 English. Business English for the workplace. Hi, Tim here with another 9 to 5 English lesson. In today's lesson, we're going to learn how to express support for an idea in English. In business, it's very important to be able to express your ideas confidently. That doesn't just mean coming up with new ideas. It can also mean expressing what you think about other people's ideas. In our last lesson, we learned how to express doubt. Today, we're going to look at the other side and talk about how to express support for an idea. Now, sometimes you want to show moderate support or just a bit of support. In this situation, you can use expressions like "I guess" or "I suppose" before stating your support. And when you state your support, you might use expressions like "I can see your point" or "That's a good way to look at it." Let's try a bit of practice with these ways of expressing moderate support for an idea. Listen to each example, then repeat it yourself. Ready? Let's get started.
I could go along with that.
Yeah, I guess I can see your point.
That's worth considering.
I suppose that's a good way to look at it.
Did you hear that expression, "I could go along with that"? If you go along with something, you agree or support a plan or way of doing something. And notice that saying I can or I could are mild expressions. It's very different from saying I will go along with that. Sometimes, however, you don't want to show moderate support. Instead, you want to show strong support. Well, you might add definitely after I can or I could to turn that expression into one showing strong support. You might also use words or phrases to emphasize, like, I'm behind you 100%. In that case, behind you means I support you. Or you might say, that's a really great idea. You can see how different that sounds than, I guess that's a good idea, which doesn't sound strong at all. Let's try some examples of showing strong support. Remember to repeat the examples after you hear them.
I'm behind you 100%.
I can definitely back you up on that.
I must say, that's a really great idea.
No doubt about it.
So in our last lesson, we looked at expressing doubt. But if you say, no doubt about it, you're actually saying you strongly support something. One other expression you heard for emphasis is, I must say. You can introduce any opinion with that expression, just to emphasize how strongly you feel. All right, we've practiced different ways of expressing support. But how does this sound in a conversation? Let's listen to a short dialogue between Jillian and Dave. Jillian is expressing her opinion about who should join a work team. Dave is expressing support for her ideas.
I think we should bring Jane onto the team.
I could go along with that.
And maybe Gregory too. He's really smart.
No doubt about it.
Now it's your turn to practice. We'll repeat the dialogue, but this time we're going to beep out the second speaker's words. You will have to say those parts yourself. Remember to start by saying, you could go along with that. Then show strong support for the next idea by saying, no doubt about it.
I think we should bring Jane onto the team. And maybe Gregory too. He's really smart.
Okay, that's all for this lesson. We've learned how to express mild or moderate support for an idea and how to say you strongly support something. We'll be back soon with some more 9 to 5 English lessons, this time with a focus on phrasal verbs. Phrasal verbs can be tricky, especially if you're just beginning to learn English. But we'll have you speaking like a pro in no time. Until then, so long and happy learning.